Hello, welcome to my channel, another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am doing the Read What You Own 100 Book Platinum Challenge, where I have challenged myself to read 100 books that I already own before buying another book. I am at book 85. And what books have I been reading the past week? Not too much. The first book that I finished was for the Booktube prize, so I can only say that I have read it. It is My Fourth Time We Drowned, Seeking Refuge on the World's Largest Deadly Migration Route by Sally Hayden. This was an audiobook. I've been trying to find physical copies of the audiobooks that I listened to for the Booktube prize, but my library doesn't carry it, unfortunately. The next book that I read was on my brand new Kindle Scribe. And that was The Bog by Michael Talbot. This is an 80s horror novel. It is set in the UK, in the bogs. I am not that familiar with the UK geography, so I'm not quite sure where these bogs are, but the character does visit London in a couple scenes, so I presume it's not too far out of London. Well, anyway, the man is a university professor studying ancient UK bodies, and he has a graduate assistant who has discovered a Bronze Age woman in the bogs, and the body has been preserved remarkably well, very well, even beyond what is normally done for the bog people. And if you don't know that the peat bogs can preserve bodies incredibly well, enough that when these bodies are discovered by accident, most people call the police thinking it is a recent death. That's how well these bodies are preserved. Well, anyway, they start investigating this dead woman, and they discover some anomalies, such as her face. There's something wrong with her face, like she died in extreme terror, and that has been preserved in death. Let's just go with that one, okay? Parts of her body have been consumed before death. Now that's an interesting way. And so it goes on. And they start discovering more and more things about how this body has died. And the local landowner who is ruling over this town. It's a very small, rural, isolated town. And the townspeople are very fearful, especially of a moth. And then they discover even more strange things about this body. Now, I'm not going to go too much more into it, other than about 60% of the way through this book. It takes a freaky, deaky, nutsy Fagin turn that really sort of threw me for a loop for a horror novel. It's sort of not what I expected. And if you look up the author's biographical history, there's a little bit of a spoiler in there, maybe. I didn't quite like the twist that this book turned. I didn't DNF it because it was pretty good otherwise. It's a pretty decent 80s horror novel, despite this bizarre twist. And I did basically enjoy it. And I can recommend it for true horror fans. You gotta really put on that willing suspension of disbelief hat towards the end. But it was okay. The next book that I finished was my first book for March Mystery Madness, and that is The Devil Home on Leave by Raymond. This is the second book in his Factory series about a nameless detective working out of London, solving unexplained deaths. Now, these are deaths that maybe murder, maybe not. They're really not deaths. These deaths are not high profile usually. They're very low profile, about people no one care about. And this nameless detective gets on the case. In this case, it's a body that has been rather hideously dismembered to the point where you can no longer identify anything about the body. The fingers are gone, or the fingertips are gone, the teeth are gone. The body itself has been boiled down and put into multiple plastic bags. And so this detective has to reconstruct the murder and discover the murderer. And it's pretty clear on that this murderer is not an ordinary psychopath. And I'll leave it at that. Now, as I said, this is the second book in the Factory series. It is actually the fourth book that I have read in the Factory series. Now, I read the first one. He died with his eyes closed quite a number of years ago. And honestly, a lot of the details of that book are gone. But of the three more recent books that I read, which would be number 2, number 3, and number 4, I would rank 4 as the best, number 3 a follow-up, and then at the end, number 2. Kind of hard to fit in number 1 in this ranking because I just read it so long ago. But if you are a follower of the Factory series, it is an absolute necessity that you read this. Derek Raymond is a very grim author, and it's grim in the way that if you like grim fiction, you'll really dig it. And that's all that I read. Not a whole lot. And one of the main reasons I did not read or finish a whole lot is that I have started on my March of the Mammoth, William Gaddis's The Recognitions. This is 945 pages of small print. I'm actually reading this on my Kindle along with the audiobook version, and I'm just following along the text as I listen. But I also own this paperback. And this is a freaking fantastic novel. I also know that it's not going to be for everyone. I am buddy reading this with Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. We had another member of the group who just could not get past the first few pages. It was just not his style of writing. Let's just put it that way. But for Alan and I, we both like this book. I think it's going to be close to the best book that I'll read all year. It is the best book that I am currently reading for 2023. But I will leave it at that until I get a little further on and finish. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.